Welcome to Love by Design, the podcast for high-achieving women who are ready to stop performing for love and start building it from truth, from alignment. Welcome back to Love by Design. My name is Joan. Today I want to talk about a very, very important topic. When you are growing, but your partner isn't. So you might be in a situation where you've done the work, the therapy, the healing, the retreat, you've read all the books, you've had the coaches, you've sat with your shadows, you've healed your wounds, you've done the inner work, which honestly is a lot of the work that a lot of people avoid their entire lives. But you've done that for you. But then when it comes to the person that you love, your partner, they're exactly where they were 3 years ago. So it's the same patterns, the same resistance, the same conversations that are going nowhere. And there you are, lying in bed next to them at night, feeling that you're almost ashamed to admit that you are profoundly alone. Sure, you're not physically alone, but you're emotionally alone, alone in a way that cuts deeper than being single. And now you're wondering, is this it? Is this what love is supposed to feel like? So I want to talk about it today because this is one of the loneliest things a person can go through. And not nearly enough people are talking about it as openly and as honestly as it deserves. So let's jump in. So this experience doesn't just happen all at once. There's no single moment where you look across the table and think, oh shit, I've outgrown you. No, it's usually quite slower than that. And for some people, it takes a really, really long time. So it's the conversations that you can't have with them because they'll be triggered or they'll trigger you. So you get to just sit down with your journal and just pour your heart out into that. It's in the books that you've read that have changed your life. You're excited, you try to share it, and they don't bother to read it or they gloss over 3 pages and throw it away. It's in the podcast episodes that you listen to and you're like, yay, finally, it cracked something open inside of you. And then when they listen to it, the partner is like, yeah, this is all that woo-woo stuff. It's too out there, right? It's the retreats that they refuse to attend with you. So you just stopped inviting them. The therapy sessions where you're there processing the relationship with somebody else, but we can't even process it with them. It's in the realizing that your whole internal life, your whole spiritual life, your whole growth life, they have absolutely no access to it at all. And so one day, you finally notice the most important conversation that you're having are happening everywhere else except with your partner. And that's when the real loneliness settles in. That's where loneliness inside a relationship becomes a different kind of grief because you're not supposed to feel alone. You have a partner, right? But you are completely, utterly, deeply alone in the parts of yourself that matter the most. So let's talk about unequally yoked because this is a term that I heard growing up as a Christian and it's thrown around a lot. So I want to be clear about what it is. Being unequally yoked isn't about intelligence. It's not about income or education or status or religious background or culture. No, it's about consciousness levels. One person is asking, how do I grow? And the other is asking, why do you have to change everything? One person is now seeing the relationship as a curriculum, an initiation, a space for evolution. And the other person is just looking at it as a contract, a piece of paper that they signed. Well, you agreed to a certain life. We got to stick to it. One person is doing the inner work and the other thinks inner work is for people with problems. Sound familiar? So neither is a villain in this story, but they are pulling in fundamentally different directions. And you can love someone completely. You can have a history with them. You can have children with them, a life with them, and still be at fundamentally different levels of awareness. Both things are true. The love is real and the misalignment is also real. And holding both of those truths at once is one of the hardest things that you will ever have to do. So you discover that you're lonely in your relationship. What happens next? Well, you start to resent them. You start to resent them for not growing, for not trying, for not meeting you where you are. But beneath all of that resentment, you can't really resent someone for being exactly who they are. They didn't sign up for the version of you that was going to evolve this fast or even evolve at all. They signed up for the person that you were. And now that person is gone. You changed. And that's not a crime, but it does create a gap. And then comes the guilt. Who am I to say I've outgrown them? They're a good person. Isn't that enough? Maybe I'm being too arrogant. Maybe I'm being too spiritual. Maybe, yes, he was right. I'm just too much. Maybe if I just love them harder, they'll come with me on this journey. And that guilt can keep you stuck for years. I understand this because I've lived it. But that guilt is actually just protecting you. It's protecting you from the grief of admitting the truth. The truth being that good people can be wrong for you. Deep love doesn't guarantee alignment. A good man is not the same as the right man. A good woman is not the same as the right woman. And staying with someone because they're a good person while you're slowly shrinking yourself is not loyalty. That is you abandoning yourself. That is self-abandonment. So now what? Well, you can't want someone's growth more than they want it for themselves. You cannot drag someone into consciousness. You cannot evolve for two people. No. And if you keep trying, you will only exhaust yourself. You will hollow yourself out. You will build resentment so deep that it starts to poison everything. I've seen women buy their partners every book, share every podcast, drag them to every single event out there, every couples therapy session. And then when nothing changes, they start blaming themselves, thinking that, oh, maybe I'm the problem. I'm not patient enough. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe it's me. No. You cannot want someone's growth more than they want it for themselves, period. So that is not your failure. That is the reality of two people who are at different levels of awareness. And the sooner you stop making it mean something about your worth, the sooner you can start to see it clearly. So what's the way forward? Well, there are 3 paths that you can decide to take. The first path is you stay and shrink. So you keep yourself small to maintain the relationship. The saying, don't rock the boat, don't bring up the hard things. You just manage, you just settle into everything. And hey, I'm not going to tell you whether this is right or this is wrong. Some people choose this consciously, but I want you to know what it costs, because choosing this path over years doesn't just affect you. It affects your joy, your aliveness, your sense of self, everything connected to you. You slowly self-destruct because now you're forced to wear lots of different masks. So that's the first path. The second path is stay and lead. And this is where a lot of people keep trying, which is great. So you keep working on yourself, you keep growing, you stop trying to bring them along, you just accept them fully as they are, not the potential that you have in your mind about what they could be, not the version that you think, okay, maybe over time they'll become. No, you just accept them as they are today, exactly as they are. If you can genuinely do that, if you can find peace and joy within the gap, then this path is definitely possible, but it requires radical acceptance. And it requires you to now kind of split your life in two and find other places to bring that fullness of who you are. The third path, which is live with love. So you recognize the relationship has completed its curriculum, you honor what it was, you release what it no longer can be. And you do this not with bitterness, not with blame, but with the truth that some relationships are truly complete and it is perfect that way. So it's not a failed relationship, it's a complete relationship. And living with love means I honor you, I release you, and I choose us both. So you get to choose what path you want to follow. So here's the final thing I want to say. The love can be real and the relationship can still be wrong. Love definitely is necessary, but it's not sufficient for conscious partnership. You can love someone completely and still not be able to build a future with them. You can love someone completely and still be incompatible at the level of the soul. You can love someone completely and still be called to walk different paths. So I love you, but I can't stay is one of the most painful and most honest things a person can ever say. I had to take that path for myself and it was not easy. It does take a lot of courage that most people give it credit for, because staying when you know you should go, it's not love, that's just fear dressed up as loyalty. And leaving when you know it's time is not abandonment, that is integrity. You didn't outgrow them, you grew into yourself, and that is not something that you need to apologize for. So if you're in this right now, if you're lying awake next to someone feeling more alone than you've ever felt, I want you to know that you're not crazy, you're not arrogant, you're not asking for too much. You're just a person who chose to grow. And growth always costs you something. Sometimes it costs you the relationship you thought would last forever, but it never costs you yourself. And that's one thing that you cannot afford to lose. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. And if it stirred something in you, trust that. Alignment isn't a concept, it is a calling. And if you're feeling the nudge to take this work deeper, then I want you to go ahead and book your Aligned Love Assessment, where we map your patterns, reveal what's keeping you stuck, and explore your journey to aligned love. You can book your session at joannwosu.com. Until next time, remember, you're not here to earn love, you're here to embody it. So keep dating by design, not by default. See you next week.